Welcome to Idea Gen TV. Today, we are incredibly honored to have with us the president of the UN Women for Peace Association, Barbara Winston. Barbara, welcome.
Thank you so much. We're very, very, very honored to be part of your program.
Barbara, there are many people along the way that we've interviewed, and I must say today I'm especially honored and really excited to hear from you on all of the incredible work of the UN Women for Peace Association. I mean, you're at the forefront of literally helping to change the world. And we're excited to hear your insights and perspectives. And most importantly, that ability that you have to look into the future in terms of helping to gain insights and solutions to some of the world's most important issues, especially when you look at what you're doing at UN Women for Peace. Can you tell our global audience, please, a little bit about yourself and also about your role and responsibilities as the president of the UN Women for Peace Association?
I am very, very on the path that I have been on, because it's important for people to know that in all different circumstances, they can eventually find their way to helping the world, each in their individual capacity. I was always interested in international relations and religion and politics. And because of that, I had joined different organizations. At one point, I was a trustee of the Institute of International Education. That is the arm of the United States State Department that does the Fulbright scholarships and so many other marvelous works. And also different organizations that concern themselves with national security. And also, I was interested in health and in bringing up my family. And putting all those things together, when I met the wonderful Dame Muna Rihane Al Nasser, who is the wife of the former ambassador of Qatar to the United Nations, Ambassador Nasser Al Nasser. He also at one point was president of the General Assembly. She had started this organization in 2008, the United Nations Women for Peace. Mainly, it was the wives of the ambassadors, and she had this marvelous idea of putting together civil society along with the people that were involved with the United Nations. And it just came together for me because I felt that we all have to participate in order to make the world a better place. And so our main address was to help the United Nations Trust Fund to End Violence Against Women and Girls, which we are a major donor of. Our organization did expand very, very much in these ensuing years. And we have taken upon ourselves to try to be one of the vanguard organizations addressing the problem of the inequality between the genders. So it has been an interesting voyage for me, journey, because we do interface with corporations, with private society, with governments, and with marvelous, brilliant people. So, and you being one of them, George, we met you at an event with the AARP, which is a great organization. And immediately I knew that you were a super person and so concerned with what's going on in the world. And it was in one of these lunches that we got together, and it shows you that when you get together, many, many things happen. So I'm grateful to be here today. Thank you.
Oh, that's right. I'm so glad that you mentioned Barbara at AARP. We're huge fans of AARP and the transformative their work that they're doing, especially in the 50-plus age group. It's just a game changer. And Joanne Jenkins, the CEO of AARP, is just one of those leaders, those giants that we all stand on the shoulders of on so many different levels. And so for you, a successful woman, can I ask, where did your inspiration come from to go into this type of work? We've heard a little bit about it in this interview, but how ultimately have you been inspired to pursue this work on so many levels?
Well, I would say that the seed, the most important seed for me is the fact that my mother and father were both in concentration camps, and they were basically lone survivors of their families. And they met each other after the war. They were young. They had gone into the camps when they were around 17, both of them. They got out, they were in their early 20s. They met in a displaced persons camp. They met each other in Germany, and they got married. And I was born in a displaced persons camp in Germany. And my parents did not hide the conversation about what went on in their early lives. So I grew up knowing about the misery, the hardship, the cruelty of what man can do to man. And I would say that in my life, I always try to be in a position where I could help, where I could do things, where I could influence. I think being an influencer is really, really important, as we see today in the social media. But I would say the driving force was the horror. I would say the horror drove me. And I guess it propels me still to this day. The cruelties, the inequalities, the mankind's inhumane behavior. And yet, on the other hand, my mother told me stories in the concentration camp that some of the guards would steal food and bring it to her. And even after the war, when I was in the displaced persons camp, I had a mutti, a German lady that helped my mother. So we never lost sight of the fact that humanity is great. Humanity has its very negative points also, but that was the driver, I would say.
What an incredible and humbling, deeply humbling perspective for where you've drawn your incredible inspiration, and certainly undernoting the fact that we must never forget, right?
Yes. Yes.
We must never forget the past and some of the cruelties of the past in order to make sure that we do not repeat those both now and in the future.
Yes,
So
it is instructive. It is instructive because humanity, it is noted that humanity, many of the things that we do repeat it. We repeat it maybe in one fashion or another, but we should take note of our history, definitely.
100%, Barbara. And shifting a bit, what has been your favorite program or project that you've worked on throughout your career, and why?
I would say that my favorite project has been the desire to make things more beautiful. I feel that beauty is one of the great equalizers, whether it's beauty in nature or beauty in things or beauty in skill or beauty in personality or beauty in behavior. I feel that the desire to make things better, to make things cleaner, to make things more efficient is something that always gave me tremendous satisfaction. And I did it creatively in design. I designed clothing, I designed jewelry, I did interior design, I do landscape designing. And what's given me the greatest satisfaction, though, is the fact that we can design our lives, we can design our relationships, and we can design doing great work for humanity. And so I would say that the greatest satisfaction is putting everything together and being a very, very, very forceful impetus and catalyst for many good things.
And Barbara, that really is a tremendous segue to what we always speak about, because our main mission ultimately is to create a deep awareness of those 17 global goals of the United Nations, 17 Sustainable Development Goals that I know you also espouse so dearly, because we see the ability for those goals to transcend on many levels politics and allow people to come together perhaps in ways that they otherwise wouldn't, with all 193 member states coming together to unanimously agree on these goals in 2015 and launch that runway through 2030. It really is remarkable, including, by the way, the United States of America, as you know, to come together to say, we agree to these broad 17 goals: equality, no poverty, no hunger, global partnerships, and on, to be able to literally measure and ultimately change the world. And so, which of the 17 goals, Barbara, this is a tough question, I think. Which of the 17 global goals would you like to see achieved first, and why?
Imagine that people sat together, all these countries with all of their histories, with all of their religions and their cultures. They sat down, they distilled all the history of humanity, and they distilled it down to the 17 requirements that civilized people in the 21st century should aspire to. When you think about the concept that people actually took the time and took the talent to distill all the information from all the centuries, from all the history of mankind, from Homo sapiens, from our beginning in the cave, down to these 17 rules that everyone will aspire to by 2050, 2030, or whenever, now, hopefully, you realize that they're all terribly important. We can't be without good water, good air. So, you know, when you say which is the most important, we can't live without the good water and the good air. So they sort of segue one into the other. Of course, our organization, the one that we are part of and the one that we are champions of, are to stop violence against women and girls, to have gender equality. Whatever persuasion people are, we hope for everyone to have the ability to have dignity, to have opportunity, to be able to function, to be able to live, to be able to breathe freely, to be able to have the capacity not to have fear, to have safety. So I think 5 is terribly important, but with 5, I think 17 is enormous, because you cannot achieve any of these things without partnerships. Everybody's an individual. Every person came from a mother and a father. Every person has a history, and in our life, we seem to go into silos because we have to many times. Either we are an engineer or a doctor or a plumber or a housewife or something. We seem to go down a certain area because that's the reality of life. I mean, it's foolish to say anything other than that. But when you have people that are multi-talented, and then you have organizations that have different interests and different objectives, when you put them together, those partnerships are creating a world where we can all come together. We now have the technology, we have the social media, we have a confluence now of all these different factors that are interfacing each other and putting us in a position where we can achieve things that we never thought we could before, and at a time scale that we never could imagine. So I would say, you know, of course, 5, because that's the area that we're into. The partnership thing is tremendous, and that's why I started this interview by thanking you, because IdeaGen has been at the forefront of trying to put all corporations, civil society, public policy, all these different people and groups and ideas together, and it really is working. I mean, it's fantastic, and it's inspirational, which I think is vitally important for all of humanity, to have inspiration, to have that nugget that makes you want to do things, to achieve things, to participate. So I would say that those are tremendous for me.
And Barbara, first of all, thank you so much. And we feel the same way for the UN Women for Peace Association and your leadership within that organization. You have been steadfast. You have been trying to change the world, to make all of the wrongs, and maybe, you know, 99.9% of these wrongs right. And you're steadfast for that. And I'd like to shift a bit to ask you a question on the world today. So with everything that's been happening in the world, clearly we're in a very unique situation. Perhaps for the first time in human history, the entire world, the entire planet is facing the same sort of invisible enemy, which is the pandemic that has engulfed the world so suddenly. Who would have thought a few short months ago in January that we would be having this conversation, and that a few short months later, again, the entire world would be facing this situation. And so with everything that's happening, what, Barbara, do you see as one of the biggest inhibitors today in reaching and achieving these global goals by 2030?
I think people not listening will be the greatest inhibitor. Everyone has to listen, and everyone that has the capacity to listen and the ability to listen has been, of course, aggrandized by the virtue of having the iPhones and the computers. So not listening is something that is not acceptable. We have to listen, and we have to work together. The truth is that we're all on this spaceship Earth. We're hurling through space. We're on a spaceship. We're moving around. We have climate conditions that are really, really afflicting so many different people in so many horrible ways. You hear of the tornadoes and the storms and the cyclones and the global warming and the icebergs. And it is really, really, really something that we have to all participate and cooperate in. We have it's true. This is a unique moment in history when we are able to communicate with each other. Before, we had airplanes so you can circumnavigate the globe in 24 hours, which was unbelievable. You could go any place in 24 hours, 25 hours, something like that. But now we have a pandemic. We realize that we are just one great community. And there's a lot of problems in the community. So we have to be able to find the people and come to some kind of ability to address these problems and see if we can solve them. Some of them, I don't know if they're solvable, but we have to try. And we have tremendous talent out there to be able to address situations that confront us. So we are a global family right now, and we have the communication for a global family, and we have to work together really, really hard. And if we don't, we're in deep, deep, deep trouble. So that's the key. And that's the one thing that I realize. We have to listen and we have to cooperate. Such
incredible advice from an incredible global leader and luminary like yourself, Barbara. And I hearken back to what you mentioned early on, is the experience of your parents and the leadership that they exemplified throughout the most difficult times imaginable as survivors of the Holocaust, and yourself seeing all that and living through it, and now taking those lessons on, again, never forgetting the past in order to make the future better. You know, I've repeated it a few times because I just think it's so poignant, especially today, to never forget, right? To never forget these incredible lessons of history. And you're right, the cruelty of humankind on some levels, but there is that other side of people that are out there to do good. And it leads me to leadership. You are the embodiment of leadership. This conversation is about leadership. And I'd like to ask you, Barbara, why do you think that effective leadership combined with innovation, because we need innovation to drive us forward, to rewrite, to reimagine, in some instances, the future. We can't just rebuild. We need to rewrite, reimagine, rethink, redo, and be better and stronger as a result of this pandemic. And so why do you think that effective leadership and innovation are so crucial now, perhaps more than ever?
Well, leadership has always been important in society and amongst human beings, whether it's the leader of a tribe or the leader of a movement or the leader of a company. Leadership is enormously important. It's the leader does not have to have all the skills, but the leader has to have the vision and the capacity to inspire people. You must have leadership. You have to have leadership in a home, in a family, and anything that you do. If you're building a barn, you need to have somebody that figured out the specs, picking the materials, picking the land, making sure that the pitch is correct. Everything is important, but you must have a guiding principle. You have to have a dynamic, a catalyst, something that fires up the other people, the other participants in any situation, so that you can effectively have the motivation to produce and to affect and to work together. There is a tremendous dynamic in leadership and in inspiring people, and a leader gets tremendous energy from the people that he's leading if he's a good leader. I think that the leader can inspire tremendous leadership qualities in other people. I think that maybe is the most important attribute of a leader, in that they can in fact make other people realize that they have the skills also to be able to lead and to affect and to engineer marvelous capacities in other people. Now, what we're trying to do right now is to and this is the motto that I came up with, that I think that it's vitally important, and I think that we all should embrace it. We want to deconstruct the DNA of violence. We want to restructure the paradigms that we have been working with, because they don't work. Our society, humanity, should be able to very, 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 very explicitly and very, very in a very organized fashion, through education, teach people that the violence against each other is not, it's not acceptable. And so we're going to produce, with different partnerships, with different collaborations, an irresistible wall of determinations, an irrepressible wall of determination, that we are going to deconstruct this DNA of violence. And we have such geniuses. We have these we have people studying the neural networks of the human mind. Imagine that we're going to Mars. Imagine that we can do these achievements that are just unbelievable. So I don't know if there's an algorithm that we can put in our educational system, or there's some kind of modality that we can engineer. I know that we have worked with the Yale Center of Emotional Intelligence, which has been incredible. It shows you that by different teaching methods, you can change the way people think and behave by regulating their emotions. There's so much genius out there that what I wish for in this interview with you, George, and dear Jen, is to encourage all those brilliant scientists and engineers and architects and creative people to think outside of the box. We have got to engineer and reconstruct the whole system that we have in education, so that we do not have violence as such an incredibly important big segment of our lives, and we've got to eradicate it on many, many, many different levels. So that's what I'm hoping to do in my lifetime, is to deconstruct the DNA of violence.
Deconstruct the DNA of violence. What an incredible, just an incredible, the way you laid that out, Barbara, is so profound. And you're right. I mean, there's so many brilliant minds, and it's such an incredible moment in time in terms of innovation and the ability to think through these deep and complex problems, that you're on the forefront of that. You're on the forefront of changing the world. And I'd like to ask you, what are the 3 key pieces of advice you would provide to our global audience to help achieve the 17 global goals of the United Nations?
Thank you. Engage. engage and be part of the process. Be bold. Don't be shy. Be bold. Participate. Come together with different organizations, grassroots or otherwise, in your own environment with your own family. Show them what kindness looks like. In your companies, show your employees what kindness and generosity and caring looks like. And in your other interests, join with the UN Women for Peace so that we can have you as part of the great movement to deconstruct the DNA of violence so that our world is a much, much better place.
Engage, be bold, and participate. 3 key lessons from our good friend, global leader, and global change maker, Barbara Winston. Thank you. How can our global audience find out more about your profound and incredibly globally impactful work?
Well, they should go, of course, to the computer, I guess. And I'm a dinosaur, really. I'm really bad at this. But they should go to United Nations Women for Peace website. And all of the ability to participate with us is there. And also with our great friend IdeaGen. Through IdeaGen, they can find us also. So it's these collaborations which are so important, and really make the effort. Do it.
Do it
on your calendar and do it. The thing is execution, because there are 99 great ideas, and one person takes that idea and executes. So that's the brilliance. Brilliance is an execution.
And that's a great point for the global audience. Anyone who'd like to engage with the UN Women for Peace Association will be able to contact the organization through IdeaGen. Of course, we're happy to make that link. And of course, directly with Barbara Winston as president of the UN Women for Peace Association. Barbara, thank you for inspiring our global audience today. Thank you for your incredible leadership. And thank you for reminding us all that we must never forget the past to make the world a better place in the future.
I love you, George. God bless you. You're a wonderful gentleman. And thank you so much for the platform that you enabled me to do today. Thank you so much.
We do too, Barbara. Thank you.
Thank you.